Welcome to the Richmond Film Network podcast, your all-access pass to the world of independent cinema. Each week, we go beyond the credits and sit down with the creatives who turn vision into reality. Tune in weekly to find out who's on the RFN pod. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RFN podcast. I'm Lisa Giles, and I'm so excited to have with me today DJ Higgins with his pilot Horsepower, which makes its Virginia premiere with us Saturday, May 17th at 4:30 p.m. as part of RFN Indie Fest at the Park RVA. Welcome, writer, creator, director, DJ Higgins.
Thank you. So happy to be here and an honor to have Horsepower play with you guys.
Well, DJ, you're no stranger with us. You've been here before. Your film Loved screened with us in our first season, and you were here just in February with another film, The Pizza Connection, for which you became a finalist for Best Directing, and your actress Jenny Lynn a finalist for Best Actress. So congratulations and welcome back.
Thank you. We're so excited that The Pizza Connection was received with such a warm crowd, and I've had a bunch of filmmakers reach out and talk about collaboration in the future, even under that umbrella of creating certain segments and chapters with Pizza Connection, which to me is the hallmark of a great festival. When filmmakers are thinking about collaboration, that's the whole idea of going, comparing notes and seeing also, who's doing things differently than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Noah, I was amazed with how he lit his piece, and we've been in conversation. So I just think the world of what you guys have put together.
Awesome. I had two reach out and tell me that they have been in contact with you. So Noah, I didn't realize that you were in touch with Noah as well.
Yeah, after I saw his film, I said I really want to put a script that I wrote to your style.
Mm.
And seeing and meeting DPs, editors that are challenging what you're doing in your past film really keep you also sharp. So learned a lot, had a ton of fun, great swag bags. I smoked a cigar.
So let's talk about Horsepower, which again is screening with us this Saturday. The log line is Fletcher Miller, son of a wealthy Colorado ranch family, aspires to become the next governor of Colorado. During a moment of intoxication, the trajectory of his campaign hits a roadblock. His fixer and his wife must act quickly before everything spirals uncontrollably, ending his career and freedom. Now, this is something very different from Pizza Connection.
Oh, yeah.
Similar setting-wise to Loved, but story-wise, completely different. So how did you arrive at this story about Fletcher Miller and the politics?
The film is a medium of metaphors. So I'm being very careful not to talk about spoiler alerts in Horsepower, because in any good pilot, of course, suspense is what's going to carry us forward. You have to come to the festival to really see what happens. But the film's rich in metaphors. It's similar to what we did in Loved. Loved was such a interesting journey. And when I walked out of Loved, there were two women at the bar, and they said, whoever wrote Love needs a lot of help psychologically. And I said, I'd like to introduce myself. I wrote it. And they said, I said, well, no one really died in the movie. It was a rabbit hole of metaphors, but the blood and the gore was supposed to touch upon the death of art, right? And this idea that we've reached a point as artists where there's a governor on how far we can push, which is the antithesis as to why I wanted to tell stories and make movies. So, Horsepower is about what people will do for money, right? And the person that has the fastest car, metaphorically, has the most horses under the hood, which is a trope that's existed for the last 2,000 years. If you have a Ferrari, you have a 700 horsepower automobile. That means you own 700 horses. That's what $300,000 buys you. So the idea was to play with what people will do for money, what they will do to get out of trouble, and what drives society in 2025, according to what I've seen in politics and the status quo.
So why a pilot for this versus another short or even a feature?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's an important one because Joe and I have worked together on so many projects. Loved was a 14-minute short that is now on Amazon, iTunes, all streaming platforms for $1.99. But the idea is to keep creating. So I remember reading 10 years ago a letter that Marty Scorsese wrote to his daughter Francesca. And he said, because of the advent of digital creations, the fact that you're no longer cutting film, you're going to deal with a market that's potentially oversaturated with films. And that can be scary because it's going to be harder to get your film in front of people. But the call to be great and the call to be excellent is going to be far greater. So the bar will be raised, and that's the silver lining. That really struck me. You have one of the greatest directors of all time. I just heard De Niro call him Marty. Martin, not like I know him. And I thought that we have to be creative in the storytelling realm, in the sense of, even if you want to make movies, which are my passion, Game of Thrones really made a movie every Sunday. The Sopranos made a movie every Sunday. They were $1 million productions.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than just be stuck on, I want to make my film, get it in the theater, and that's always been my dream, Joe and I tried to cut the apple differently and say, well, right now there's a trend, and that trend is binge watching, which didn't even really exist prior to Netflix. You got to sit through commercials. So let's try something different. Let's shoot a really compelling 35-minute piece and see who bites on this storyline with the option to tell 10 more stories. And I have those scripts written.
So you and Joe, you two clearly have an ongoing creative partnership. What is the secret sauce behind your collaboration, and how do you challenge and support each other creatively?
So I've made 14 movies with Julie Robinson, who I met in film school. And we cast Joe in my first feature film, Meet Mario. So first and foremost, we met with zero bias, in the sense of he's a very talented actor, and I thought what he brought to the character was spot on in terms of what we were looking for. To be succinct and answer your question, is just work ethic. Joe is an absolute workhorse. Loved. He drove an RV around Joshua Tree while acting, while producing it, while creating a studio in essentially in an Airbnb. And then what nobody saw was that at the end of the shoot, the director, lead actor, and executive producer, Joe and I, were cleaning out the RV with Lysol wipes, to make sure that we held our end of the bargain in terms of returning the RV clean. And so he's really not afraid to work an 80-hour week. And I think that's so important, even though that may seem cliche. What I've seen in the entertainment industry is there's really two sects of filmmakers. There's the filmmaker that believes that they're going to sit on the beach and stumble upon Leonardo DiCaprio and they're going to become best friends and make movies. Or there's the filmmaker who's going to find out where Leonardo DiCaprio has his coffee and go there for 5 years until he can show him the script and say, I'm done. I'm willing to do things in an unorthodox fashion. So you got to work with someone who I think has that work ethic that's going to get you to your next project. And Joe certainly has an insatiable appetite. He's certainly not someone who rides his laurels. Loved went and won 75 awards. He said, what's next? Get writing.
Mm-hmm.
So we both don't really sleep. Yeah.
Looking at the cast list, you've got some names in here: The Temptations, Law and Order, Forrest Gump.
Malik's really, really incredible. We also became friends after the shoot. I would say he's one of our biggest stars in the production, and his performance is just fantastic. Yeah, Aaron O'Brien, fantastic. Pete was give everything
Hey
to the.
guys,
Hey, Joe.
sorry about
Look
that.
who's here.
I was running super late. I was actually on the phone.
Not a problem. Glad you could pop in.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
What's up, DJ?
How's it going? I was just talking about you.
Good things, I hope.
All good things.
All good things. You'll see it in the playback.
Nice.
So he was just telling me about the after bragging about you, telling me about the other actors in Horsepower.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had a hell of a cast on there, hell of a crew, hell of a cast. It was a lot of fun.
So how did you go about the casting process and getting everyone else on board? Are they people that you worked with before, or was there a call? Or
Yeah, most everyone I've worked with before. Like Erin O'Brien, she's a very close friend. Gary, Pete's one of another close friend. He's the one that helped me with Robert Dobby. He's the only one I didn't know at the time. But yeah, a lot of friends, a lot of hookups, and a lot of favors.
so did you all write this together?
That's all DJ.
Oh, okay.
That's all DJ's crazy.
Yeah.
Whatever goes through DJ's head is always a little crazy.
Well, I mean, when I wrote it, and then Joe and I had so many sessions, like in LA, there were a number of drafts, and this is something that I think really works with the relationship I have with Joe. Is I wrote Fletcher for Joe, you know, and I think in that sense you get an organic beat. Like in Pasquale's Magic Veal, I wrote the piece for Joe D'Onofrio. I don't think those jokes would work without the Brooklyn accent that Rocco had. So the same thing with Joe, like not to say that he has anything in common with Fletcher or Harold by any means, or meet Mario's character, but there's certain tendencies that you work into the design. And then sit down and Joe's like, yeah, I would say this, or maybe this is something I wouldn't say. So, you know, the writing process is evolving, you know, we're on the phone all the time, but really starting with his character and then building around. And then, you know, Joe's like, I got this guy Malik who would be fantastic. And then I got on the phone with Malik and tried to really create these characters based on, you know, Joe's vision with the cast. So it's collaborative, you know, for sure.
Yeah, I think it kind of like once same thing with Love. I think we kind of knew who we wanted to be involved. And I think once we kind of talked to a couple of people loved the idea, loved the script, and it was pretty simple. But I think it all kind of fell together really easy with Horsepower for sure, especially with the location. When I found that location, they hooked us up so well. But those guys, I'm so close with them now. It helped, you know. And I think seeing the caliber that we went to for Horsepower once the cast got on set, even the crew got on set, they knew we weren't messing around with whatever we're going to do. We're going to go above and beyond what we need to get the job done, have it look good, and be a good project.
That location being a 2,000 acre ranch in Colorado with ancient ruins. Did I read that
Yeah,
somewhere?
it was
Did I make that
it's
up?
called Canyon of the Ancients Guest Ranch. But yeah, it sits on about 2,000 acres of ancient ruins. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, yeah, everything you see in Horsepower did not even put a dent in what was on the ranch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does that location shape the story and the aesthetic of the pilot?
I think we kind of shaped. I mean, DJ could probably answer that, but didn't we kind of shaped the story around knowing around like what we were where we were shooting, right? Like a lot of that stuff.
Well, so Lisa was saying, you know, we have a relationship where we've made several projects together that have done well. And she said, you know, what is it about your relationship? And I said, you know, a lot of things. Joe's a loyal guy, great guy, but it's hard work. So, you know, I created Loved, and Joe said, we're not going to shoot this in Pennsylvania. We're going to go to Joshua Tree. And that's that push in the relationship. Like, how are we going to do that? He's like, I'll figure it out. So, you know, Joshua Tree, of course, is the dream location. And then all of a sudden the budget changes. So Joe, you know, says, hey, look, here's a picture of where we're going to shoot this. I'm like, how on earth are we going to do that? And then, of course, getting out to Cortez, and I'm claustrophobic. The plane is about as big as the box that we're in here. So once we flew out and did some location scout. That was Joe's vision. That's what I'm saying. Even with writing, he created that ambiance, and the fact that you almost have a studio because they were so accommodating was a dream. I mean, this was a dream project to me.
I think we knew, like, we knew we wanted to film on a ranch, and just because of like the weather and just different reasons, I'm against shooting stuff on the East Coast. It's just it's nothing against anything on the East Coast, but we knew we were going to film, and we were looking for
a really good point though that I didn't think, because I said the same exact thing. I'm like, come on, let's shoot in Pennsylvania, and Joe says, what if it rains?
Yeah,
and that was brilliant, because I honestly didn't even put that into the equation.
I was in Cali, and we used, like, went online. I looked at a couple of ranches that kind of had a vision that I was looking at, and we had I think I had Pete Dobson. He was one of the producers on here. He also played Aaron in Horsepower, but him and I were together. We were searching a bunch of places. We found a list of 3 in Colorado, and we were going to hit up every one of them. We just happened to go to Canyon of the Ancients first because it was closer to LA. Basically, it was about 10.5 hours. The other one was like 14, 15 hours. We're like, oh, let's go here first. We spent 2 days there, and the people were so amazing that we actually never even went to the other locations. And we just said, hey, this is where we want to be, and called it a day. And they worked with us.
So did you have any memorable moments during the production that really tested you as filmmakers?
Well, Joe trained on a horse. This is like the first when people.
It was the most challenging, yeah.
I'm gonna really trim the fat here. Joe went out so dedicated and trained on this one particular horse so that we didn't miss a beat.
Months before we even shot, I was going back and forth because they said they like, if you're gonna train on this horse, you should, or if you're gonna use this horse, you should train on this horse so you guys get acquainted. But
and the day that we showed up, the horse was sick.
The day before, months of a couple of months of training, and then the day, I think it was the morning that we were shooting that scene, running through the field, the horse got sick. We couldn't use the horse at all, and we had to use this other horse that the horse wasn't cooperating. Put it that way.
So, Joe, you've got several projects on the horizon, more TV roles. Can you tell me what you have coming up next?
Yeah, I just finished a nice role on Godfather Harlem. Prior to that, I had a nice one on Law and Order, and then last year was good. Last year was a very good year, fun year. Wound up doing 3 features last year, so I was actually almost the whole year on the road, and it was pretty wild. I did a horror movie, drama, and a action film, all shooting out west, and hopefully comes out in sometime this year. I think the horror movie, Pay Homage, is probably going to come out first, and then the other ones, but we'll see. I was very, very fortunate last year. It was a really, really fun and fortunate year just for filming.
Hearing you guys talk, I don't know how you fit all this into your life. DJ said you never sleep, but you guys seems like you're really workaholics. And DJ, you're a professor as well?
Yeah.
How?
I mean, I wouldn't have been able to answer that question last week, but I made it through graduation.
Yeah, I saw your picture. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't really care for anything else but this. So it's like, I was in the corporate world for 15, 16 years. And I still am, still have the company, and I had a couple other small businesses and whatnot. But this is what now, for the last several years, what I've been able to just focus all my time on, which is great. It's easy. You don't need anything else when you love what you do.
So, DJ, you have 4 master's degrees and a recent doctorate. How does that academic life inform your storytelling?
So the masters were really just an excuse to travel the world when I was in my 20s, because my parents wouldn't have bought the idea of taking 10 years off to see Europe. So, and then I stumbled upon a love for documentary filmmaking in general. And essentially, I had a professor who said, you can focus just on the film aspect scholastically. And Antonio Vitti, he took me aside and he said, the beauty of living in the two worlds, and Spike Lee has done it, Martin Scorsese has done it, is that you're watching movies constantly, so you're studying to make your movies. You're this perpetual student. And I learn a lot from my students, you know. They're cutting things on CapCut. So being that, you know, I have time in the summer to go out and shoot films, and if you're in the film world academically, your movies actually count as publications. One hand washes the other. But I think that's the most exciting part about living in the two worlds is, you know, constantly watching movies. I'm seeing something different. I'm learning about where to put the camera. I'm learning about story, seeing my students' films and learning from them, and then going out and making movies. I like to think that there's a progressive nature to all of that, and I enjoy both.
So, in the world of horsepower, who would you trust least?
Oh wow,
Your fixer, your wife, or your own ambition?
I'd have to say trust the least. No, not like if I did not know the story itself, I'd probably go with the law, with the sheriff and the deputy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't trust Fletcher Miller at all, the lead. I think he's always got something up his sleeve.
I like
Are
that.
the follow-up episodes, are they written?
Yep.
Yeah, we have
A
the
whole
synopsis
season
written. We have
worth,
a
or
full deck and all that stuff of where we want to go with it, and yeah, we put some stuff on the website too. We've been doing a lot of like behind the scenes. So I'll go to the ranch and I'll shoot videos of where we shot certain things and take people on like a tour of where we shot it, how we shot it, and whatnot. But we put that and a couple other ideas on the website just so people can get a good idea of it.
all right. Here's the lightning round. Dream collaboration, dead or alive?
Wow. Lightning. I'm gonna need. I'm gonna have to go with Denzel Washington.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one, Denzel. Dream collaborations.
Al Pacino's listening. Don't be offended.
Al Pacino? No. I love Sean Penn. Like a lot of his stuff. But I'm an old school guy too. You know, I like some of these like old school actors, like Dobby, for instance. That was friggin' amazing to work next to Dobby, just knowing what he's done. But I probably have to say Sean Penn.
Good answers. What's the last great thing you watched that made you want to write something immediately after?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really into Vampire Diaries right now.
I mean, I probably watch 7 movies a week. I'm gonna say surprisingly, I love Mobland with Tom Hardy and Pierce Brosnan. I thought they took a really interesting angle on a cliched market. Yeah, I've been inspired by that show.
I watched it was on Netflix. I forget the name of the show. It was recent, but I watched it, and it was just the whole show is just one take. I don't know if you guys saw that. I forget the name of it. No, they don't cut at all. The whole show is the camera just it's absolutely amazing. That's the last one I watched. I was just like, wow, that was pretty incredible.
What about the first movie you ever loved?
Oh, that's easy. I answered this actually at the Richmond Film Network last year. I watched it with my dad. It was one of the first ones, other than Rocky, obviously. But Eddie and the Cruisers. That was one of the first films I watched with my dad. Michael Paré and oh god, there's a whole bunch of people in there. But that was my first love because music, film, everything was kind of combined in there. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Rocky. I mean, you almost feel guilty saying it because people are like, I would have never guessed. But I'm not someone who tries to sound sophisticated for the sake of it. Rocky spoke to me the first time I saw it, just totally blown away that a movie could have so much depth. And the last line of the movie is "I love you." It's a love story to boot, you know. I mean, it's just and he loses. I mean, that's a movie to me that never gets old, and Stallone's resilience is just inspiring. He's still going. So
that show on Netflix is Adolescence. Did you guys see that?
Adolescence.
No, I haven't.
You have to check it out. I mean, they don't cut at all. Like there's no cutting. Like the whole
Wow.
yeah. And if you watch some behind the scenes stuff of how they actually film it and they hand off the camera to different cameras, it's pretty
Oh, wow.
incredible.
DJ, that sounds like a new challenge for you to take on.
One cut. That's a lot of coffee.
Guys, I could talk to you forever. Thankfully, I'll see you Saturday.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys again.
As we leave, tell everybody how anyone interested in following your journey can find you.
Joe Sernio on Instagram, joesernio.com as well. But Horsepower, you can just go to watchhorsepower.com. And it's got a bunch of cool videos, behind the scenes stuff that we're doing on there.
And my Instagram handle is DJ the Director. And then DJ Higgins would be my MDB.
Guys, I will see you Saturday. Thank you so much.
All right, can't wait.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Richmond Film Network podcast. Thanks to our guest and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Tune in next week to see who's on the RFN pod. Until then, keep the cameras rolling.